Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable. I'm your host, Gary Temple Bodley. This is a special Roundtable edition because we have the graduates of Joshua's Unlimited Abundance Bootcamp Group 2 with us. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Gary.
So you guys have just graduated the second ever bootcamp. And so right now you're living perfect lives.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Excellent.
all day, every day.
So we've gone through a intensive 8-week process of understanding how the universe works, understanding the difference between our true desires, our false desires, how to manifest what we want, what we truly desire, how to actually engage the law of attraction from a completely new approach to life, and then where we go from here. So we're going to talk a bit about the boot camp and what your experiences were. And so whenever you are inspired, just jump in and join the conversation. So we started this, what was it, February 4th or something? And today is April 3rd. So we got a whole 8 weeks behind us. And what did you guys think? Was it intensive? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Was there too much to do, too little to do?
It was fun. There was a lot to do. I think it could have been stretched out maybe another month.
Yeah.
Or have to take off work or something.
Yeah.
But I felt like I came into it on a pretty high vibing vibration to start, and definitely left out even higher for sure.
Good. Well, Greg, you've been paying attention to Joshua for a while, so you came in and you were like the star pupil. You got it right away. When I read your homework and stuff, you knew what was going on. It was like there was one assignment about the difference between what you truly want and what you think you want, and you just put fill in any desire. It was great. Yeah. So the first week, it's interesting because it accommodates for a wide range of where you are. So some of you have been following Joshua for a long time, and some of you are brand new to Joshua, but it gets everyone up to speed in that first week because it goes into how the universe works and that sort of thing. And then once everyone's on the same page, week 2 starts, and then it really starts to ramp up. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different weeks, and let's see here, and then we'll just, because it's interesting, I've done it 3 times now. 1, the first time I channeled it, 2 with group 1, and the 3rd time with group 2. And actually Wendy is here from group 1 as well. So you can, and Tracy too, so you guys can give your perspective too. And what's happened in the 4 weeks since you guys finished. Okay, so let's go to this. Okay, so in week 1, Joshua started by asking, what's your priority in life? And it's sort of interesting because really most of us who live in the Western societies, our priority in life is to try and make things happen, try to control as much as we can so that we can, manifest something we think we want. And so we behave, or we be, as Josh would say, in a certain way to achieve certain goals. So who you were being before you found Joshua or before you started the boot camp is probably a little bit different than who you're being now. Does anyone have an example of that? Was anyone being a controller?
I'm finding, after being out of the boot camp for a few weeks now, my issues of control are resurfacing in whole new different disguises.
Yeah.
And that's been something really, like, just how much of a controller I truly was, still am in some way, and how I kind of hide it in a sense. Like, for instance, I'll give you a super easy example. Going on the cruise, leaving my dog with my dad. okay, my dad's really lonely. My mom passed away. My niece is going to come walk and he's going to be perfectly fine. But I'm thinking, oh, how will he survive for a whole week without me? He'll not be in his routine. He won't go to the dog park. What if he doesn't get his treat at the specific time? All these things that I'm controlling the shit out of the dog. You know, it's like,
The dog doesn't care. The dog's going to have fun.
doesn't care. Yeah, I mean, even Astrid pointed that out. He's always in alignment. It's me that's out of alignment. So.
I noticed how much I control my behavior, you know, so it's more like controlling me than trying to control other people. I mean, I definitely try and control other people too, but you've got to catch yourself.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
a lot.
And so
Sometimes
back to the boot camp, one thing that I learned was how to process that. It's like, why am I stressing out over this so much? So I actually went back and got out one of the manifestation event forms and walked myself through it and realized, well, I was controlling again.
Yeah. Greg?
Yeah, well, a lot of times you're controlling yourself to control other people. You want to control the reaction and control your fears of their reactions. So it's kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does.
that's totally true. It's like, yeah, the reason you're controlling yourself is to control what other people think of you. Yeah. So we're going on a cruise next week, and Tracy and I have been trying to control our eating because
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, we want to be, you know, on the pool deck in bathing suits. And I also, you know, I'm going to be doing a thing, the first ever like dueling channels. So me and David will channel at the same time.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, isn't that going to be interesting because he'll channel the stream, I'll channel Joshua, we'll be on the table at the same time, and then someone will come up and ask a question, and they'll have two different perspectives.
Ooh.
Oh, wow, that'll be cool.
I'm gonna have to think of a question for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he lost.
And is it going to be recorded and available for those of us who can't make the cruise?
Yeah, for $9.95.
I'm gonna
have
record it
$9.95.
on my iPhone for $8.95.
I don't think you have the rights to it.
Oh.
It's been copyrighted. No, it'll be a podcast, so it'll be one of the Joshua Live podcasts.
Okay.
Cool.
But David lost a ton of weight. He did intermittent fasting and keto diet, and he looks great. And so,
Well, that makes him so much better than you, Gary.
totally.
So, I
That's
don't
what
know
I was
why
saying.
you're-
I was just gonna say, I don't know if I qualify.
thin people are better than fat people.
Oh,
I don't know
Lord.
if I qualify as a graduate because I haven't completed the boot camp yet, but I do remember a few specific lines that jumped out to me because they hit me right when I needed them about comparison and how that does not serve us to compare ourselves to others.
Exactly right.
Ourselves. So.
Yeah, so I've been having this fun, just silly joke that, you know, there'll be a whole bunch of people on there who have never met me in person, and they'll say, you know, there's two channels on the cruise. Which one does Joshua? And they'll say, the fat one does Joshua.
How about we change that around, Gary? How about we say that really nice guy, that super sensitive, compassionate guy does Joshua, or that good-looking guy? Come on.
Or the guy
Awesome.
with the beautiful girl.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one that'll work. Yeah,
There
there you go. Or the tall one.
Those are all great.
Oh, great.
But, you know, even that little tiny thought, which, you know, really, I am softened that so much that it doesn't really matter. But it is interesting that you even worry about that at all, because I'm not, you know, I don't judge anyone else or care anyone else what they look like. Why do I care what I look like? You know, that sort of thing. But
I had asked a question to Joshua about why can't I, you know, have self-control, you know, over my eating? Because I like to eat, I like to drink, I enjoy it, it's fun, it's, you know, we do it with other people. And he's like, the same, and I knew it. I just knew this answer, but they said, why would you want to control yourself? I'm like, oh my God, duh. That's right. That's another form of control. And then literally once I got that aha, and, you know, knowing that the most important thing in life is to feel good, I said, oh, okay, feeling good. So I started feeling good, practice that feeling, and naturally, I don't want to eat anything but healthy food. I have no desires for sugars, for carbs, for bread, and all that stuff that really makes me bloated. And naturally, I'm just losing weight. I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like no control.
Week 1 was also about your beliefs. And so we found out that we have beliefs that we think are true and beliefs that we think are false, but really they're either empowering or limiting. They're not true or false. They're either empowering or they're limiting. So now we've been able to define what's the limiting belief and what's an empowering belief. Limiting beliefs are based in fear and empowering beliefs are based in love. So that means that limiting beliefs are always false. And if we can find that limiting belief, we can prove it's false. And empowering beliefs are always true. And so we can prove that empowering beliefs are always true. And so no longer do we just casually accept our beliefs, we're starting to analyze them now.
That was the big thing for me, thinking things were fact. Where did that belief come from? It's not my belief. Where did it come from? And digging down and figuring out when I adopted that belief and why.
Exactly. And then you can, once you just have a grasp of that idea, then you just don't say, is it true or is it not true? You just say, if it's limiting, it's absolutely not true. If it's empowering and beneficial, it's absolutely true. And then we start to work on adjusting the intensity of those different beliefs.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then week 2 starts. Week 1 was a little easy because there was only morning homework, but then week 2 starts with evening homework, which is, analyzing your manifestation events. Manifestation events occur anytime you feel emotion, especially in reaction to something that's happened to, in your reality. And so like an argument would be what we would call a negative manifestation event that points to a limiting belief, or happiness, looking at the sunset would point to an empowering belief. So did you guys were you able to do one every day?
Oh yeah, at least one.
Yeah, because really you're encountering emotions every day.
Right.
And sometimes those emotions are to an event. Sometimes it's really big and it's so obvious. And sometimes the manifestation event really is just a thought. So you think a negative thought, you feel negative emotion, and you can identify the limiting belief there. And the theory of that goes that when you're, the idea of a manifestation event is to identify a limiting belief. And that happens in the thought. So if you have a negative thought, you have a negative emotion, that identifies a limiting belief. But most of the time, we've ignored those. And now we're paying attention to those. But if you ignore the thought, then it turns into a physical event. And then it gets another physical event and gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And eventually it'll be so strong you can't ignore it. So we're learning to pay attention to those manifestation events now. Did anyone have a big one? I know you all.
You mean a repeated one?
Yeah, a repeated one.
That's, it felt like, can I come up with something new? The same conversation at dinner that turned into a negative or a limiting belief, and I'm still writing them. Camp's over. I'm still writing them.
Yeah. Well, you think you're going to get fixed by the boot camp, but you just get to another stage of awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
And what a fantastic tool I'm finding, and I'm finding that as I do them more and more often, that it is coming in a different place, and that's really empowering. It's easier And I'm also looking forward to it because now I'm realizing that all these events are for me, and that's, you know, less resistance, which is really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I've also noticed is that when a manifestation event occurs, and there's several of them in the same theme, really what it's doing is showing you different facets of that limiting belief. So you can get a different perspective of the limiting belief from different parts of it. And that's why they tend to come in a series of the same recurring event. I used to have big, gigantic ones about appreciation, you know, not being appreciated, but I was trying to get people to appreciate me. And I really, back in the old days, ignored them, thinking that the people were wrong. And if they just weren't wrong, I'd be happy, right? And it wasn't, and they were major, serious events, but it happened. You know, I can think of 10 big time events around appreciation or betrayal, that kind of thing. You know, and then lesson 2 of week 2 talks about who we're being, because really, it's how we're being is part of our vibration that we're emitting. And so when we're, you know, being small and not stepping out of our comfort zones, or being controlling, or being good, a lot of it was being good because we want to receive love and make sure that love keeps flowing, so we be different than we are. But who you're being determines what your life really is like. Since I started being a spiritual leader and teacher, my entire reality is focused on that. Almost every part of it. And now it's 99% of the conversations I have are in the spiritual teacher and leader kind of realm. So it's conversations like this, what we're having today. It's inspiration that's flowing because of that. It's people who are showing up. There's a woman that's been paying attention to the podcast and she really loves them. And so she sent in a tithe for $300 today, just out of the blue. You know, that's never happened before. The podcasts are all about double what they were in December or last year. And the book sales are all double. And people coming to the Friends of Joshua group are, you know, much more than they were before. So things are really changing in my reality now that I'm being a different version of myself. Is anyone else being different yet?
Working on it.
I had an example that was like almost an immediate example of that. I was at I know I talked to you, Gary, I was at the home show over the weekend, and it was a little slow, and so, you know, everybody around me was being negative and talking about it, and I was kind of getting drawn into it, being like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do this show, and, you know, anymore, and, you know, I could be out, you know, doing something different. And then I just changed my perspective immediately to being just being grateful for being there, and just appreciating the moment and being in there. And it's like immediately I had people walk up to me and book an appointment. It was like, it just, there was no more people there. It just changed like instantly, the energy. That was so cool.
Yeah, because they're not going to be attracted to someone who is in a negative vibration, right? They're just going to not get that inspiration to come and talk to you. And so you, by being different and changing your vibration because you're being different and having a different outlook, now you have a different point of attraction. And so then they'll get inspired to come and see you or to notice you. It's an amazing thing. You know? And a lot of the homework in the boot camp was about inspiration. You know, unless you're really paying attention to the inspiration, that's one of the hardest things to realize what's coming. But that's the most powerful part of this. And being in alignment is the reason we do it, is so that we can receive inspiration that'll take us along this path of self-discovery as we intended prior to our birth. So has anyone been noticing their inspiration more?
Yes,
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Have you been we had a question from Kate who was like, or from Erin, who was like, you know, what's the difference between efforting and inspiration? You know, and sometimes you get inspired, but it feels like effort. And Joshua's answer was, when you're doing something to make something happen because you think you're lacking something, then all the work feels like struggle and effort. But if you're inspired to do something and fear pops up, that fear causes you to feel this uneasy feeling. And you can think that you don't like doing something, but it's just because you're not used to pushing past that fear and stretching your comfort zone. So that was an interesting thing I thought that came up recently.
I found it's applicable in just basic stuff around life. And it combining control and efforting and inspired. So I'm inspired to make the bed at a different time than I normally do or whatever. And letting go of the control, well, he should have made it. Looking at it as like, but I was inspired, and you know what? It's kind of fun, and maybe I'll put the pillows in a different order. Oh, this is kind of fun. Oh, all of a sudden I'm in a really good space, really happy. And then I head down the hall towards my office, and I'm like, oh, when I get there, I'm going to look for something that's more along, you know, something I want to improve myself or work on. So it's like a ladder. Just it inspires me to be inspired by silly things, I guess.
Yeah. When you're going with the flow of that stuff, because imagine getting the thought to make the bed, and that was an inspired idea, right? But you might say, well, somebody else should have done it, or that's the little fear that's coming up, or I don't have time to do it, or I'm not going to enjoy doing it, or I'll do it later, all that stuff. No, you have the idea. So you go make the bed. It really takes, if you timed it, 2 minutes to do, you know? At
the most, yeah.
And then once it's done, I mean, because I make the bed in our house every day.
Oh, that's so funny.
So part of that week 2 was the evening the assignment, which was what is wrong. So every day was a different what is wrong. Mm-hmm. So you might, you know, think of something that's wrong in your life. The first thing was pick one thing you think is wrong in your life right now. Or the next day it was an example of something you regret that happened in the past. And there was a whole form that really turns all that stuff around, you know. Mm-hmm. And how you know, whenever you think something's wrong, it's actually right. You've just been looking at it from a limited perspective.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, the day 6 of that was write an example of one thing you think is wrong in a relationship with fill in the blank. You know, that one tended to be the most examples that I got back from people. You know, when you turn in your homework, some people didn't turn in everything, but most people turned in that one because that was the easy one to do. And you think that if your person that you fill in that blank was different than they were, you think you would feel better. But it's just anything that you think is wrong is pointing out a limiting belief. And that's what you want to get at, these limiting beliefs. Okay, so week 3 goes into a big theme of what do you want, right? And how the manifestation process works. And then, does anyone remember how the manifestation process works? It's, oh, good.
Desire, overcome irrational fears, act on inspiration. I'm leaving something out there.
Yeah, well, it's birth of desire. Then because the desire is typically comes from some feeling of lack, you have to regain your alignment, then receive inspiration. Then fear is going to arise, but you got to push past the fear. You'll process your limiting beliefs that brought up the fear, raise the intensity of the desire, take the first step, the one you're inspired to take, and then don't think about subsequent steps. And then whenever you're inspired, take the next step. But then we find out that what you think you want is different than what you truly want. And Greg's one was the best, where he wanted a garage full of exotic cars. But what you truly wanted was freedom and abundance, right? Yeah. And so in the assignment for lesson 3 there, you described in detail 10 things you think you want. And it really makes sense. I think a lot of people did this, and you could really tell that what you thought you want was always based in lack, and what you truly want is always based in love.
And the best part was to continue a couple of weeks, find that document, think about it. I had it slipped under my computer, a blank sheet, so I could pull it out and realize when you had the realization or inspiration, it's like, oh, I really desire this, not that. And writing up new lists and really wishing you could just throw away the first list because it's embarrassing.
Well, and sometimes you can want some of the same things, just the kind of the motivation and the inspiration behind it can be different.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so the things we intended prior to our birth is to express our love and acceptance primarily for ourselves, for all other people, and for the conditions, to live in true abundance and true freedom, and to expand in joy, and then to explore some aspect of physical reality in more detail. So those are what the things we truly want. And the thing we think we want is security or money or whatever, or love from someone else, that sort of thing. And then if you think about what you think you want and try and get that, that's always going to turn out to be trying to manufacture something that you don't already feel, and that never works.
I thought that was interesting too, because it took me down a little path of feeling, of thinking about everything just being a thought and a feeling, and nothing outside could really ever change that. It all has to come from your initial thoughts and how you're feeling, not what you get and how you get it or whatever. I'm probably not articulating that very well.
Yeah, you are perfectly, because it's that, when I don't know what, I guess what's perception of reality is you realize that this is a feeling reality, and all we're ever doing is feeling something.
Yes.
We're either feeling good or bad, or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to feel good and better and best and great and exhilaration and all these feelings based in love. And if we lived our lives feeling good all the time, then it wouldn't matter what the reality showed us.
Right. And taking that a step back even further, I was realizing that how I feel is all how I think. All my thoughts are generating how I feel. There's nothing really outside. It's my perspective and my judgment of what's going on that makes how I feel. Yeah. So it's like there's nothing matters.
Yeah, nothing matters. And so when we take control of our thoughts rather than control the conditions, that's how we change how we feel.
Right.
And so this boot camp is really a course about changing your perspective, controlling your thoughts, understanding what's really going on in order to feel better so that you receive inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
So week 4 was how to identify the difference between what you think you want and what you truly want. And then the assignment for that first lesson was, what do you want to feel now? And so we don't think about what do we want to manifest. We think more about what do you want to feel now? I'd like to feel exhilaration, And so if you want to feel exhilaration, that comes from pushing through fear. If you want to feel appreciation, that comes from cultivating appreciation for everything that exists now. So it's not for some feeling you're lacking, but it's just for your choice to feel something.
Yeah.
And so when we think about creating our vibration, it's not really the vibration to match what we think is lacking. It's to create the vibration of what we want to feel. And so how do you do that? And that is all about that idea of cultivating the feeling.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those exercises.
Then how to become an allower. When I was listening to Abraham, I thought I knew what an allower was, but that goes so deep on what an allower really is. And an allower really is someone who can see the right in everything. I don't think that anyone except Joshua has ever really said that, where everything is right, there is no wrong. You have to come to that perspective to understand what being an allower is. Then there was this idea of this love-fear spectrum, which is sort of new. So I imagine a rainbow, and there's like a dividing point in the top of the rainbow, and on one side, you're living in fear, and some people are way down at the bottom living in total fear. And the other side, you're living in love, and some people are way at the other side of that living in pure love. And most of it exists somewhere in the middle. And so what we're trying to do is move towards more love and less fear. And this is something we've been discussing a long time, or recently this week, is that people are becoming more and more and more fearful in their life as they get older, because they're on this momentum of increasing their limiting beliefs rather than reducing the intensity of their limiting beliefs. Unless you know what the limiting belief, or that the limiting belief is responsible for your fear, and that you have to do things to reduce its intensity, it's just going to naturally get more fear-based. And as you get older, you're going to, I was talking to Audrey today, who works with older people, and she can, she describes them as being in fear of everything all the time. We were talking to Lizzie, who was on the last Joshua Live call, and she was saying that her life now at her age is so much fear, and she just can't stand the fear anymore, and she wants to do something about that fear. If we just did that one thing in this boot camp, learning how to process those limiting beliefs so we don't feel fear as much, that is a game changer right there, I think.
Well, just the fact that the boot camp gives you that tool I feel like I'm always going to be processing fears, yet now I have a process for processing.
Right.
Exactly. I think that's the one thing I wrote down. What did I get out of this? And I've been following Joshua for almost 3 years, and I've heard the words limiting belief. I was like, blah, 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 blah. And this finally, at about the 7th week, I kind of went, oh my God, limiting belief. That's where it all is. That's where the problem here is. And it gave me a whole new perspective for the 8th week. And now, the 9th week, at looking at how important limiting beliefs and looking at them helps us conquer and move past or through our fears. It's life altering. It really is. Yeah.
Which is nice about the boot camp, because it gives you really the first time ever a process for all of this stuff,
And we've been asking for processes since 2000 when we first went to Abraham. We went in there and they gave us games and things like that. But this is a process for me that's, it's not a game, it's a real application. It's not always easy, but at least it's, like you said, a process. A game changer.
Tool. Yeah.
Yeah, really big tool.
Have that tool. Yeah.
Did you guys like doing this in a group?
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is
And
something.
partners are great too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is something that we'll always have the Abundance Bootcamp Facebook group that we can always interact in. And Allison put some stuff in there today that's really cool.
Oh yeah.
So that's neat. Yeah. And now, we're going to do the next boot camp April 29th, and you all are welcome to join that. And you can join as coaches and maybe coach someone new going through it. You'll learn everything from another perspective as well. So anything that we ever do in the boot camp, you'll have access to forever. So now we go to week 5, and 5 sort of is right in the middle here, right? Of course. You've done weeks 1 through 4, and Joshua is like, okay, you learned everything now about your limiting beliefs and all this stuff, and are you actually going to make the change? Are you actually going to change from your old approach of control into the new approach of acceptance. And so we really had to make a decision there because we're so programmed for control that it just sometimes seems hard to change to acceptance.
Yeah. And getting past, I think a couple of people asked this at the beginning of each boot camp, was like, well, what's the difference of, being an allower and being a doormat? And we've just been conditioned for so long that if you don't, stand up and take your space and be in charge and be in control, then people are just going to walk all over you. Well, that Joshua gave us a whole new perspective on that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, because reality doesn't work that way. The law of attraction doesn't work that way.
Right.
You get back what you're being. And so if you're in fear of being, walked over, if you're being a victim in the old approach, then you just get examples of victimhood from in your own life and in the lives of those around you too. You notice it more.
Yeah, that was really, when they talked about how you're mirroring, you're going to just get it right back. It's like, that makes so much sense in so many things throughout my life that it's like, well, why can't I get past this? Well, because I was focusing on it. That's all I was focusing on. So of course I was attracting that versus turning the cheek and focusing over here on something different and attracting that. Simple, not easy.
Yeah. But, people don't know this stuff. And even if you're into law of attraction, this is so much more than that. This is why people get stuck in law of attraction, because they're still trying to control the law of attraction to not be a victim. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work that way. Yeah. This is the law of attraction. This is what week 5 is about, is this mechanism of physical reality is designed to give you everything you're focused on. And so if you're focused on being a victim, you have to have experiences of a victim, whether it's to you personally or to people around you. Depends on your intensity of your focus, But imagine being someone who is completely calm and confident that they'll always be taken care of, they'll always get everything they need to do whatever they need to do, that there's no possibility to be taken advantage of. And so they behave differently, they be different. And so they're not getting the same sort of feedback that people who are completely paranoid about being taken advantage of. Yeah. And then lesson 4 is understanding what your emotions really are. The emotions are guidance system. We know that, but this goes into so much more depth about that. All right. So week 6 goes into more about the anatomy of the system of physical reality. And one thing about that is Joshua says that you live in a loving and supportive universe designed to give you everything you need to do whatever you need to do when you need to do it. That's the basis of the system. And so if you treat it like that and act like that and believe that, you'll have a different experience of life. But even if that wasn't true, even if reality was a malevolent environment where you had to protect yourself, if you acted as if you were the creator of your reality instead of the victim, it would still work for you. It'd still be a better approach to life. But since we know how the system works and it's shown up time and time again, we know for sure that we're the creator of a reality and that we get whatever we need to explore whatever we're focused on. So now we're choosing to focus on what we appreciate. That daily spiritual practice that you did every single day, the meditation, the gratitude list, the list of appreciation, setting your intentions, paying attention to your inspiration, that stuff just sets you up for a different kind of day.
That is so true. I found that every time there's a couple times that I didn't do it, and I just felt good every single time I did it and felt really excited about the day and eager and anticipating. And then the couple days that I didn't do it, it was more neutral so it is totally a really good setup for the day. And I'm going to continue doing it. I'm really enjoying it. It's great.
How many other people are going to continue doing it?
Me.
I have.
Absolutely.
I keep
Me.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing it every day so far. Still.
Me too. Me
That's
too.
great. Wow. Yeah, I quit after the first time.
You don't need it anymore. You're special.
I totally need
Yeah.
it. I totally need it.
Oh, he needs it.
Thanks, babe.
I just had a perspective on that, the rainbow you were talking about, so if you're maybe way over here in fear, it's kind of an uphill battle to get to neutral. And once you're in neutral, it's more of a free fall all the way to unconditional love too. It's such a much quicker drop to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And no matter where you are in that spectrum, there's like kind of only maybe a cone, if it's just for visuals, of what you can accept. Like you can't be over here and just accept everything over here. You kind of have to move everything to see everything through it all. So
That's good.
when people are at different levels, there's different things that they're working on accepting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you're in something that's really tough, that's when it's hard to accept. So you just have to accept the little stuff that you can accept,
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then week 7, we come along, and now week 7 gives you the absolute key to engaging the laws of the universe. Don't tell anyone what it is, because they'll hear it, right? Just like we knew what it was, but we didn't see it at this way because we raised our vibration through the first 6 weeks to get here. And so now that we know what it is, we will always know when we're not doing it, Yeah. And week 7, again, which was, I thought, really interesting, goes back into what do you truly want compared to what you think you want. When I first channeled this part of it, I'm like, no, didn't we already do this? It seemed familiar. Didn't we do this already? Yeah, we did in week 3 or week 2 or something, right? But it's so important. And now, because you're getting the key to engage the laws of the universe and the law of attraction, that key has to work with your ability to determine what you truly want compared to what you think you want. Because when you think you want something that is based in lack, you're back there in control. And so you can't engage the law of attraction like you think you can. Now, you can manifest anything you want. It's just not going to get you the feeling of what you want. And so that's why lesson 3 is in this one, understanding the feeling of what you want. It's every time I look at this thing, I'm like, this just makes so much sense the way it is put together. And then in week 7, it talks about your inspired path. And I never had really thought of that before, of what our inspired paths are.
Yeah.
So then we get to week 8, and it talks about following our inspired path and really understanding the law of attraction at a deeper level, which lesson 2 is something I did not see until I went through it the 3rd time with your group. It's like every time you go through this thing, you see something different. And that was a big part of it, lesson 2 there. And then living in the new approach to life. Now, the idea of an inspired path, do you guys remember what that is? Crickets. So
I'm afraid I don't want to give anything away.
I know. Well, okay, I'll say it. I'll say it in a way where you're not giving it away.
Okay.
All right. So the concept here is that you came into physical reality with a set of intentions. The majority of your intentions were general in nature, but this is a journey of self-discovery. So your inspired path is when you can live in acceptance of what is, focusing on what is interesting to you, you'll receive inspiration that will take you along this journey of self-discovery to discover who you truly are. And who you truly are is what we discover in week 8. And to some people, to me, it was a big bombshell. I couldn't believe it. I also couldn't believe that other people had the same kind of inspired path that I did. And my whole concept of what that was when that bombshell came out totally changed. And once that concept changed for me, because my conception of people who were on that path were different than I was, and there weren't that many people on that path. And now I understand there are millions of people on that path, and we were all just like ignoring it or not believing that we were there. We weren't feeling worthy of it. And so now we know what that is. Now things start to make sense, like our whole lives start to make sense. So would anyone else like to share anything about their experience?
I would. I think what I've gotten the most out of this is to get to that understanding that my beliefs aren't really concrete.
Yeah.
That they're movable, they're flexible.
Yeah.
And that feels really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially when your vibration is influenced to such a big degree by your beliefs. If you're going to change your reality, you have to change your vibration. And one of the ways to change your vibration is to adjust the dial on your belief system.
Right. And that always felt like, listening to Abraham, that always felt like a stuckness. It doesn't feel stuck anymore.
Yeah.
You have a process.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
did 56 days of this process. I mean, it was a lot of work to do it all. And also 56 days is as fast as you can do this thing. So don't worry if you didn't finish, because you have the rest of your life to finish. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Isn't there something also about infinity?
Yeah.
You know, we have infinite processings.
What I really like too is that like all the stuff I kind of understood in some way on an intellectual level, and this makes it more concrete. So it makes it livable, which is
Makes
really
it livable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know, when you're really this, like Greg was saying before, it was intensive and it's hard. You know, imagine if you had a job to go to. I forgot to tell you that you're all supposed to quit your job, take a sabbatical for 8 weeks.
I wish.
But yeah, imagine doing a full-time job and then doing your morning homework and evening homework. It's not that hard, but you know, it is a lot of stuff to process. But so that's why it doesn't matter how long it takes. But in this process of completing the whole thing, you just see everything from a different perspective, and that's really a key to making things easier. But you can't really see things from a different perspective by reading a book or listening to a podcast or watching videos, because that's passive, and this is a active participation kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes so much sense.
And it's very personal, i.e. our own perspective and our own, we've all come from a different place and different knowledge, and we're heading on a different path that might all seem very similar. We might all be in more teachers and leaders than not, but having where we came from and the things that we have to deal with and the intensity of that is all different. But it's a path. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's just really helpful.
Yeah. And we are all unique, but we're, you know, united by our interest in learning a new approach to life, a new way to live life, for the purpose of enhanced joy during self-discovery. Joshua said that, that you're either on your inspired path discovering who you truly are, or you're living in fear discovering who you're not. And both ways of doing it is valid, and it's both expansive, but one way is a whole lot more exhilarating and joyful and has a lot more love-based feelings in it. But one way is processing fear and limiting beliefs, and the other way is trying to control the fear by controlling conditions. That's just, we've all done that enough, I think.
Yes.
So
yeah, I always, you talk about inspired path and it, you know, being on the right path or your inspired path, and it kind of always, I had difficulty with it. Whereas, you know, should I be should I be a fireman, a policeman? You know, is that my path? Is that my path? Should I be a, you know, fisherman? But kind of what I've learned is that if you get to a certain perspective of absolutely accepting everything, that is the path. Now if you can explore that, you can be on your path being a garbage man or being a professional golfer. It's not necessarily about what you're doing, but the perspective you take to doing it makes the path.
Yeah.
Because you're exploring each action in a different way with a different perspective.
Yeah, and all the people that come to you on that path, it's all possible. But then you can also, start to think a little bit more about what your passion is and what you're inspired to do. And sometimes that'll bring in fear because you might not think you're worthy of that passion, or you might not think other people are. But whatever you're doing, you can explore who you are as a spiritual being living in acceptance with those around you and yourself. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's next, but I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you all for being here, and congratulations to all of you for going through that 8 weeks, and where you go next, I'm sure is going to be a completely different experience for you. And it was a great deal of fun, and there was a lot of great questions and great interactions on our special Joshua Live Bootcamp editions and our coaching calls. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
Thank you all. And hold on, we're going to say goodbye on the podcast, and we will all talk at the end of this.